Yo, what's going on, y'all? It's Cone back here again today with another video, and today we're doing another episode of Hot Takes here on the channel. It's been a little while since I've done one of these episodes. I figured now would be a good time to do one because there's literally nothing happening whatsoever in the offseason at the moment. I do want to cover FIBA. You know, the Basketball World Cup is coming up, so I'll probably make some content covering that when that does happen. But for now, we're just trying to make it through the offseason. So I took to Twitter and asked y'all to drop me your hottest takes about the NBA this upcoming season, and as usual, y'all dropped some scorching ones. I picked out 7 of my favorites. We're going to go ahead and react to them in this video. I'll tell you whether I agree or disagree, and also elaborate on exactly why. As usual, leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy the video. It helps me out a ton. Also, comment down below, letting me know one of your hottest takes for the NBA this upcoming season. First take comes from Jake Knows Ball, who says that Evan Mobley will be a top 5 finisher in MVP voting, win Defensive Player of the Year as well, and the Cavs will finish with the best record in the NBA while Evan Mobley improves to 22-24-ish points per game, as well as improving his stellar defense. It's a lot. Jake here is clearly a Cavaliers fan, and like me, he's an Evan Mobley fan. I am a big believer in Evan Mobley. If you've been here on the channel, you probably know that. I think Mobley has superstar potential. Of course, he just finished top 3 in DPOY, so it's not a stretch at all to think that he could win it. I think that in and of itself is a pretty mild take. He's one of my top candidates personally. But obviously the hot take part here is not only does he finish as DPOY, but the Cavs are the best record in the NBA. He's the top 5 MVP finisher, 22 to 24 points per game. It's a big season of improvement for Evan Mobley in Jake's eyes. And I do think it's possible for Evan Mobley to take a big leap. I've even said it in a couple of videos recently in my Breakout Players one, which is the most recent video before this. I picked Evan Mobley as my breakout candidate for the Cleveland Cavaliers. I think he can have a monster season, winning DPOY, becoming an all-star as his offense improves. But I think that finishing top 5 in MVP voting and hitting like a 24 point per game threshold is a little bit too much. Now, can he do that eventually? For sure. I think that's very, very possible when I take a look at Evan Mobley's game and the way that it can progress. But do I think it's going to happen next season? No, I think it's just a bit too early. There's too many offensive options on that team like Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell who are going to take away shots from Mobley, and I don't think will allow him to score like 23-ish points per game. And also because there's, those two guys, specifically Donovan Mitchell being the head of the team, their number one option, their closer. Even if the Cavs are like the number 1 seed and Mobley's winning DPOY, I'd imagine that Donovan Mitchell probably gets a lot more of the MVP consideration while Mobley might get some of the discussion, but again, most likely just wins DPOY, finishes on an all-defensive team, probably makes an all-star game. Those are all things that I think are possible, but MVP I just don't believe is realistic in this upcoming season. Down the line, can he win one or get close? Sure, but now it's too early. Next take comes from Ghost in a Jar, who says that the Timberwolves make the Western Conference Finals and Cat and Gobert form a new Big 3 in the West. Jay McDaniels is a key contributor to their push, as well as Naz Reid. I don't think this is impossible. Now, if right now I predicted who ended up in the Western Conference Finals, I probably wouldn't put my money on the Wolves, but I think they've got a shot to do so, mainly because they made the playoffs last year despite Cat missing most of the season. He played less than 30 games due to injury, so you didn't see much of him and Gobert out there in the court together. I think Anthony Edwards has another leap in him this upcoming season, potentially going from all-star guard to all-NBA guard. Jay McDaniels is another player that I think could take a bit of a leap. We saw the defense last season where he should have made an all-defensive team. I think he can be even better this season, particularly getting better on the offensive end, becoming a better scorer that they can rely on. Naz Reid, as Ghost in a Jar mentioned in this take, is a really solid backup big. Mike Conley looked really good alongside this group when he came into the fold around the trade deadline. The Timberwolves are a really good team. I also like their offseason acquisitions. I like that they retained Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I like Shake Milton as a pickup. I like Troy Brown Jr. The Timberwolves have just had a good offseason in my opinion. They got healthy. They made some good additions. They're relying on some jumps from their young guys. I think the Timberwolves could be really good this upcoming year. So I don't agree with this take necessarily because I think there are teams I would put in that Western Conference Finals over them, but I certainly think it's possible and way more possible than people are giving it credit for. Also, in their one playoff series, they gave a really good fight to the Denver Nuggets, who ended up winning the finals, and that was without Jay McDaniels playing because he broke his hand not too long before. So it's a good sign that maybe this Timberwolves team, when all healthy and put together, could be really good. Next take comes from PR Crazy, who says that the Bucks in Boston fall in the Eastern Conference to like 5 and 6 or 7. So basically saying the Bucks and the Celtics are both going to fall pretty drastically in the Eastern Conference standings. I don't buy this one. If you've looked at the channel over the past few weeks, you'll know that I'm a big believer in what Boston did this offseason. I think Kristaps Porzingis is a big addition. I think Jason Tatum is a dark horse, not even dark horse, but one of my top MVP candidates. I think Jaylen Brown is really good. I like the supporting cast that they have around these guys. I could see the Celtics winning 60 games. Now, if they face injuries, sure, they could end up falling down the standings, but I believe if this team's fully healthy, there's no way they're not a top 3 seed at the very minimum in the Eastern Conference. Same thing with the Bucks. If Giannis suffers a major injury, then maybe they fall, but even then, like, they still got Drew, they've got Chris, they've got Brooke, they've got solid role players. I don't see any way that the Bucks and the Celtics aren't 2 of the top 3 teams in the Eastern Conference. Maybe one of them falters again because of injuries, but fully healthy. In my opinion, right now, the Bucks and Boston are probably the best 2 teams out there in the East. You can add the Heat with Damian Lillard if they get him to that equation, but for right now, I think the Bucks and Boston are the best 2 out there in the Eastern Conference. They'll finish as the 1 and 2 seeds. I'm a big believer in both their squads. They've just got too much talent overall to take that kind of a dip. Next take comes from Judge, who says that Miles Turner will win Defensive Player of the Year, and the Pacers will be a playoff team in the Eastern Conference. Miles Turner winning DPOY is, I think, the much unlikelier thing in this scenario, mainly because even though Miles Turner is a great defender and a great shot blocker, I don't see the Pacers being one of the league's top defenses, which is necessary for a player to win Defensive Player of the Year. I think their defense got a lot better adding Jarris Walker in the draft, Bruce Brown in free agency, and, having Miles Turner there, but it's not going to be good enough to be like a top 5, top 6, 7, probably even top 10 unit, so I don't see Miles Turner winning that award unless a bunch of guys on that roster take a massive defensive leap, which I just don't see happening. But the Pacers being a playoff team is certainly something I could see. I've said this a few times on the channel. I think Obi Toppin could be a breakout guy. They've got Miles Turner. They've got Buddy Hield coming off the bench most likely. Bruce Brown's now over there. They've got an all-star Tyrese Halliburton, who's one of the best young playmaking guards in the league. Benedict Mathurin could take a leap. Andrew Nembhard's really solid. Jarris Walker. They've got a really deep and fun roster. I like the play style they have over there. I think Rick Carlisle's a good coach. One of my sleeper coach of the year candidates. It wouldn't surprise me at all if the Pacers are the big breakout team in the Eastern Conference this season and make the playoffs. I don't think it's going to be because of a Miles Turner Defensive Player of the Year award, but rather a factor of a bunch of different guys on the team stepping up and taking leaps. The Pacers could certainly be in the playoffs. It wouldn't surprise me at all. This next take comes from Duffalo, who says that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander will win this season's MVP award. If you ask me, this really isn't even that hard of a take. Shai just finished top 5 in MVP voting this past season. He made All-NBA first team, and that was all with the Thunder being the 10 seed in the Western Conference. They did win a play-in game and were a game away from making the playoffs, but they still were the 10 seed when the voting happened, like it's a regular season award. So voters saw what Shai did and thought, hey, he's worthy. That's how good he was. Now, if he gets team success on top of that, which I think is certainly possible, with him maybe having another leap in the tank, a potential leap from Josh Giddey, from Jalen Williams, now Chet Holmgren comes into the fold, the defense of Lu Dort too, making the Thunder one of the best defensive units. This team is deep. They've got a really solid bench as well. The Thunder could be one of the top 5-4 teams in the Western Conference. So if we get similar play from Shai this upcoming season, with the Thunder now having team success, there's a good chance that Shai is again in that top 5, top 3 conversation, and being a newer face on the scene and being anointed this past season as one of the league's best young players, there's a chance that voters give him that award. I don't think it's impossible whatsoever. As a Thunder fan, if you ask me, I think he's going to win one at some point. I've been saying that for years. I don't think it is this upcoming season. Rather, I think it's maybe the year following or the year after that when I really think we could jump up to be like a top 2-3 seed in the Western Conference. This upcoming year, I think we'll be a playoff team, but I'm not expecting 50 wins in a top 3 seed or anything like that. So I'm going to temper expectations and say that Shai doesn't win MVP this season, although I think he's a really good dark horse pick. But in the following years, I think Shai will certainly be one of the top contenders consistently. Next take comes from Kane, who says that Damian Lillard will not be traded this year. First of all, this would be wild. Imagine Damian Lillard finally makes the trade request that we've all been waiting for. Nothing happens in the offseason. He goes into the year, just plays it through all the way, and he just straight up doesn't get dealt. I don't think that's good for either him or Portland. Portland wants to move on to this new era. They want to focus on the rebuild with Shaedon Sharpe, Anthony Simons, and Scoot Henderson, whose development is going to be hurt in his first season if he's having to sit on the bench behind Damian Lillard for the majority, if not the entirety of the year. I think both Damian Lillard and Portland want to get this thing done. Dame wants to go play in Miami or just, leave Portland in general. So I think a trade does end up happening in the offseason, even though I wouldn't be surprised if it takes up until training camp or it takes, right up until the start of the season. I do think a deal gets done at some point. It's just not ideal for either side to drag this thing on too long. Portland will wait until the last possible moment to try and get the best trade package possible, pull the trigger, which will likely send Dame over to Miami where he can compete for a championship, and the Blazers can begin this new era. If Dame doesn't get traded for the entirety of this upcoming season, I would be completely stunned. And finally, this last take comes from Sneaksies, who says the Phoenix Suns don't move me at all. No depth, no defense. It'll work some nights when Beal, Booker, KD are putting up like 80 on 60% shooting. But if their shots stop falling, it's going to get real ugly. They're going to need their stars to back every game, and they'll get worn out. Let's go through this from top to bottom. First of all, the Suns don't move me at all. I'm in the other camp. The Suns do move me. I think this team's going to be really good. Do I think they're the championship favorites? No, because they do have some flaws. And as you mentioned, the depth and the defense are two of those things. Although I think they're somewhat overblown by people. I don't think their defense is going to be like worst in the league. I think they'll at least be a decent defensive team. It's not going to be phenomenal. Offense will certainly be their calling card, but Kevin Durant's a fine defender. Devin Booker's a fine defender. Ayton has been the anchor of multiple really good defenses over the past few years. Jordan Goodwin's a good defender that they picked up off the bench, and Frank Vogel is just a good defensive coach. I think he'll get them in some good schemes. Again, I don't think they'll be world beaters on that end, but they'll do enough to hold their own at times. In terms of the depth, it's not the best bench in the world, but I think they did a good job of bringing in some players, as I mentioned, like a Jordan Goodwin as a good defender. Yuta Watanabe comes in as an elite corner shooter. You get Keita Bates-Diop, who's a great 3-and-D guy. You have Chimezie Metu, Drew Eubanks. They brought back Josh Okogie. Overall, I like their offseason. Their depth isn't phenomenal, but I think it's fine enough to back up 4 really solid stars in your starting lineup. Also, with having those 3 high-level scorers in Beal, Booker, and KD, you could have 2 guys have a terrible night and probably still win some games. Never mind if you have a night where all 3 of them are going off, they're going to be basically unstoppable. So I think this Suns team is going to be really good. Sure, there will be some nights where all 3 of them are off, although I think those nights will be rare, and injuries are a major concern. If Kevin Durant goes down for a little bit, Booker or even Beal, and all 3 guys have been pretty injury prone as of late, that could certainly rack up the minutes on the other guys that are healthy, leading to them maybe getting injured later on or being gassed by the time the playoffs come around. So I could see that being a cyclical thing where one player gets injured, the other 2 have to play like 40 minutes, and all of a sudden they're getting injured or they're exhausted, and it just snowballs into the Phoenix Suns disappointing when the playoffs roll around. But outside of that, I think the Phoenix Suns are going to be really good this upcoming season and one of the best teams in the West. With all that being said, those were today's hot takes. Comment down below some of your own hot takes, as well as your opinions on the takes that were featured in this video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you did enjoy, as well as hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any future videos. There's some really fun content coming up. I've got a video all about the Portland Trail Blazers and their Greg Oden, Brandon Roy, LaMarcus Aldridge era. The big 3 that really never was, I think, is probably the working title for that video. So be on the lookout for that one in the coming few days. Also going to be dropping one soon about Isaiah Thomas's 2016-17 season where he finished top 5 in MVP voting. I want to do one about Indiana Paul George soon, John Wall. A number of different like historical breakdowns are coming up, as well as like, prediction videos, hot take videos, maybe some rankings we'll see over the course of the offseason. Like I said, I want to break down a little bit of the FIBA ball when it happens as well. So definitely be on the lookout for all that. We're going to get through this offseason. I know it's been pretty boring so far, but I appreciate y'all sticking with me. The support in the channel has been awesome, and I just want to take a moment to thank y'all for that. With that being said, I appreciate y'all watching. I'll see y'all later. Real one, say it back.